Chapter 2. Nothing is what it seems. Scene 1. Around Earth's orbit, the gigantic Oni fleet was slowly preparing to leave the solar system. Thousands of yellow ships maneuvered in formation while receiving their final navigation coordinates. Inside the flagship, several officers watched the command screens with concern. At the center of the room, Mr. Invader sat upon his enormous metallic throne. One of the officers finally gathered the courage to speak. Your Excellency, are we really withdrawing? Yes. But we could still keep Earth. Another officer nodded. We could reinterpret the rules, or find some loophole, or simply ignore the agreement. Murmurs began spreading across the room. Then Mr. Invader rose to his feet. The entire chamber fell silent. Ignore the agreement? His voice echoed throughout the bridge. Do you really think I need excuses to conquer a planet? No one answered. The king pointed toward the enormous observation window. Beyond the glass floated thousands of Oni warships. If I wanted Earth, I would take it today. Several officers swallowed nervously. But they won. He paused. They won exactly the way we would have won. Several smiles appeared. By cheating, laughter erupted across the room. We offered them a rigged competition. We sent them a beautiful girl. We didn't tell them she could fly. We didn't tell them she could electrocute people. And we still lost. The laughter faded. That means they were better scammers than we are. Several heads nodded in agreement. Mr. Invader looked at a photograph of Ataru. That little monkey with the stupid face earned my respect. He stared at the picture for a few seconds. He still has a stupid face. The room exploded with laughter again. Finish the preparations. Yes, Your Excellency. We're getting out of here. Scene 2. Elsewhere aboard the flagship, several Oni warrior girls were having lunch around a table. Laughter echoed throughout the dining hall. It happened exactly the way we said it would. She was an amateur, and the competition was rigged. Imagine losing a game of tag. The others laughed again. If it had been hand-to-hand combat, that monkey would have lasted 3 seconds. 2. 1. The entire table roared with laughter. The princess is probably crying in her room. She definitely broke something, or electrocuted somebody. Probably both. One of the warriors leaned forward. Did you hear about Ray? Everyone immediately moved closer. What happened? He cheated on her with her best friend. Several whistles followed. Not surprising. That explains a lot. It explains quite a few explosions. Another warrior lowered her voice. And what happened to Nanami? The table fell silent. The princess overheard her talking about it. And then? They sent her away. Back home? Worse. The warrior paused dramatically. She's a bounty hunter now. Everyone shuddered. That's horrible. Poor Nanami. Silence lingered for a few seconds. Then one of them spoke again. Still, Lum lost to a monkey. The entire table exploded with laughter once more. Scene 3. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Ataru stood hunched beside a public telephone in a small park near his house. He looked nervous and very angry. What do you mean you changed your minds? He listened for a few seconds. No. His face began turning red. No excuses. On the other end of the line, several government officials exchanged uncomfortable glances. I fulfilled my part of the deal. Mr. Moroboshi, the situation is calm. I saved the planet! The officials nearly jumped out of their chairs. Now it's your turn to keep your promise. One of them began wiping sweat from his forehead. And if you don't, I'll tell everyone. At that exact moment, Shinobu appeared, walking through the park carrying 2 ice creams. Ataru saw her approaching. His entire tone changed instantly. Yes, Mom. The officials blinked. Yes, Dad. They looked at each other in confusion. I love you too. Absolute silence. The officials froze. Of course I'll buy the vegetables. One of them dropped the phone, and the rice too. Another started blinking in disbelief. Shinobu reached him and handed over an ice cream. See you at home. Ataru hung up. On the other end of the line, the officials remained motionless for several seconds. Then they all collapsed onto their desks at the same time. What the hell just happened? Shinobu looked at Ataru. Who were you talking to? No one. I hope it wasn't a girl. Ataru placed a hand over his chest. How could you say that? Shinobu raised an eyebrow. Because I know you. You know perfectly well that I only have eyes for you. Sure. They began walking through the park. We need to hurry. Why? Because we have plans. Ataru immediately regretted asking. First, we're having lunch with your parents. Uh-huh. Then we're shopping for my dress. Uh-huh. Then clothes for you. That sounds unnecessary. Then the interviews. Uh-huh. Then the photographs. Ataru began turning pale. There's more? Much more. For a brief moment, Ataru wished Earth would be invaded again. Just then, an attractive college student jogged past them. Ataru's head turned automatically. Shinobu didn't even stop walking. She simply twisted his arm. Ataru immediately faced forward again. You were saying? Shinobu asked. I was saying you're the most beautiful woman in the world. Liar. Yes, Shinobu. And the two continued walking through the park. Scene 4. While preparations for the fleet's departure continued, Mr. Invader was enjoying a few peaceful moments inside the command room. Reclining in his enormous chair, he was peacefully dozing, until one of his assistants came running in. Your Excellency! The king opened one eye. What is it? Your wife is calling. Both eyes opened instantly. My wife. Yes, Your Excellency. Mr. Invader launched himself out of the chair with a speed completely inappropriate for someone his size. And why didn't you say so sooner? He rushed toward the main screen. Connect her immediately. The massive display lit up. An elegant Oni woman appeared on the screen. She wore a long traditional gown. Beautiful, majestic, and visibly furious. Mr. Invader immediately turned pale. My dear, it's wonderful to see you. Don't my dear me. The king swallowed hard. Is something wrong? Is something wrong? The woman glared at him. Did you really allow our daughter to descend to that world of monkeys and participate in one of your ridiculous conquest games? Well, she could have been hurt. Honey, Lum is already grown up. Don't change the subject. And besides, none of those humans posed any threat to her. No excuses. The screen practically seemed to shake. We enrolled our daughter in Galactic University so she could finish her studies. Yes, dear. Was it not so she could waste time conquering planets with you? Yes, dear. I want her back immediately. Yes, dear. And I want you to return with her. Of course, dear. The woman stared at him for several seconds. And stop eating like a pig. The king froze. What? Look at yourself. She pointed toward the screen. You're getting fatter every year. The transmission abruptly ended. The screen went black. The entire command room fell silent. The screen remained black. The entire command room stayed silent. Mr. Invader stood completely motionless for several seconds. Then, very slowly, he raised a fist and punched the nearest control panel. Crash! Sparks flew everywhere. The technicians immediately ducked behind their consoles. Your Excellency. What? Are you all right? Perfectly. Silence returned. Where's Lum? The officers exchanged nervous glances. Well, you see, she's busy. The king frowned. Busy doing what? One of the assistants pointed toward a security monitor. You should probably see for yourself. A few minutes later, Mr. Invader was striding through one of the fleet's enormous maintenance hangars. He expected to find his daughter crying, or locked in her room, or electrocuting somebody. Instead, he found something entirely different. Lum was lying beneath a small sports flying saucer, covered in grease, tools scattered everywhere. Several Oni mechanics and engineers worked frantically under her supervision. No, no, no. That part goes there. Yes, princess. And increase the engine output. Yes, princess. And reinforce the lower armor. Yes, princess. Lum rolled out from beneath the ship on a maintenance platform. She was wearing protective goggles. Dad? What are you doing? Working. That much is obvious. The king pointed at the saucer. And what's all this for? Lum smiled. I've decided to stay on Earth for a while. Silence. What? I'm staying. Your mother ordered me to bring you home. Then it'll be a very short trip for you. Lum, Dad, you can't stay here. Of course I can. Your mother? My mother isn't here. Mr. Invader immediately began looking nervous. Lum? Besides, I have unfinished business. What kind of business? Lum's eyes gleamed dangerously. I have a score to settle with a certain little monkey. The king sighed. I knew it. Nobody humiliates me in front of the entire galaxy and gets away with it. Lum, I'm not going back yet. The king crossed his arms. Then I'll have to make you. Lum tilted her head slightly. Really? Of course. Interesting. The young Oni smiled. I wonder what Mom would think about that young woman you've been seeing. Mr. Invader froze. Absolute silence. The mechanics stopped working. A screwdriver slipped from someone's hand. Clink. Lum. Yes, Dad. Don't tell your mother. Why not? Because she'll kill me. Probably. Mr. Invader covered his face with one hand. Definitely. Lum smiled. Then I suppose we both have trouble following the rules. The king stared at her for several seconds. Finally, he burst out laughing. You're definitely my daughter. I learned from the best. Mr. Invader shook his head. Do whatever you want. Thanks, Dad. But stay in touch. I will. The king watched the smile slowly forming on his daughter's face, and he knew exactly what she was planning. And try not to torment that little monkey too much. Lum's smile grew even wider. No promises. That's what I was afraid of. Father and daughter exchanged a grin. Then they embraced. A few minutes later, the small sports saucer departed from the hangar. Lum descended toward Earth. And as her ship disappeared toward the blue planet, the gigantic Oni fleet finally began its journey into deep space. Far below, Ataru Moroboshi remained completely unaware of the storm heading straight toward him, and of the fact that an extremely stubborn Oni princess had just made him her personal target. Scene 5. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Ataru Moroboshi stood hunched over in one of the hallways of his house, speaking into the telephone in a low voice. I want my harem. He listened for a few seconds. I don't care. More silence. You promised. His voice started rising. I risked my life. Mr. Moroboshi. I saved the world. Meanwhile, in the dining room, the family was preparing lunch. Shinobu was helping Mrs. Moroboshi set plates on the table while Mr. Moroboshi quietly read the newspaper. And where's Ataru? Asked his mother. Shinobu glanced toward the hallway. I think he's still on the phone. He's been acting strange lately. Ataru! Mrs. Moroboshi's voice echoed through the house. Come help set the table. A loud thump came from the hallway. And stop abusing that telephone. The phone company already complained. That's the third one they've replaced this year. A short while later, everyone was seated around the table. So tell us, Shinobu, how are classes going? Very well. I'm applying for a scholarship along with several other students. I think I have a good chance. How wonderful. Mrs. Moroboshi sighed. I always wished I'd had a daughter like you. Mr. Moroboshi slowly lowered his newspaper. Instead, we got Ataru. Hey! Ataru slammed the table. You're talking about the man who saved the planet. What a way to save it, his mother replied, groping a poor alien girl in front of the entire world. Mom, now the entire neighborhood is talking about it. It was part of the competition. Of course. And I'm the Galactic Empress. Ataru sank into his chair. Mrs. Moroboshi turned back toward Shinobu and smiled. So what are you two doing this afternoon? We have a television interview. We're supposed to talk about the competition and our engagement. How romantic. Mrs. Moroboshi sighed dreamily. We were happy like that once too. Yes, Mr. Moroboshi nodded. Until Ataru was born. Will you stop that already? Unbeknownst to anyone at the table, several hundred meters above the house, hidden among the clouds by a cloaking system, floated a small yellow flying saucer. Inside, Lum watched everything through a monitor and smiled. Hours later, Ataru and Shinobu arrived at the television studios. A makeup artist was working on Ataru's face. There, all done, the young woman smiled. It's an honor to meet the savior of the planet. The honor is mine, Ataru replied with a grin. Besides, you're very pretty. At that moment, Ataru slowly reached out a hand. The girl immediately jumped. Eek! Ataru smiled. Wow, looks like you work out. The makeup artist slapped him on pure reflex. Pervert. Oh. A few minutes later, both of them took their seats in the studio. The audience applauded. Behind them, a giant screen displayed footage from the competition against the Oni. Joining us today is the hero who saved our planet, Ataru Moroboshi. The audience applauded enthusiastically. And his lovely fiancée, Shinobu Miyake. More applause. So tell us, Ataru, how did you manage to defeat an alien invader? Ataru smiled proudly. It was difficult, but thanks to my intelligence, my perseverance, and Shinobu's support, I never lost faith. Shinobu smiled. The two held hands. The audience sighed collectively. How romantic. Truly inspiring. The host nodded. We also understand that you spent several days hospitalized. That's right. Ataru nodded gravely. There was a moment when I thought I would lose the competition. The screen displayed footage of his fall during the race, the ambulances, the hospital, and then suddenly, the image distorted, static, interference. The screen flickered, then changed. Now it showed Ataru completely wrapped in bandages in a hospital bed. Beautiful nurse, bandaged Ataru grinned. Would you mind giving me my sponge bath? A nurse leaned over to adjust an IV bag. Immediately, a suspicious hand appeared where it definitely shouldn't have been. Hey! The nurse smacked him on the head. Thwack! The entire audience burst into laughter. What? Ataru nearly jumped out of his chair. That's not how it happened. Shinobu's face turned bright red. Without even looking at him, she twisted his arm. The screen showed another nurse, and another, all of them fleeing from Ataru. The laughter grew louder. Shinobu slowly began sinking into her chair. This must be some kind of mistake, stammered the host. We'll be firing our editor immediately. The audience continued laughing. Anyway, the host cleared his throat. Moving on, what motivated you to keep going? Ataru straightened his posture and recovered his dignity. My love for this planet. Applause. My desire to protect humanity. More applause. And my hope for a brighter future. The audience cheered. The screen immediately filled with static again. The applause died. The image changed. Now it showed Ataru standing in front of several government officials. No way! Ataru shouted. I'm not competing against aliens. Find another idiot! The officials exchanged desperate glances. Then one of them placed several photographs in front of him. Photographs of beautiful women in bikinis. Ataru's eyes widened. His jaw dropped. A tiny line of drool appeared. The audience erupted. That's fake! Ataru pointed at the screen. Complete fabrication. The recording continued. All of these girls can be yours if you win. Ataru wiped away the drool. Where do I sign? The next image showed him enthusiastically shaking hands with the officials. For the future of Earth. The entire studio practically collapsed from laughter. Shinobu buried her face in her hands. The screen changed again. Now it showed several young women being interviewed by government representatives. Become Ataru Moroboshi's girlfriend? No way. He's a pervert. An absolute creep. That poor alien girl. The women began hitting the officials with purses, folders, and paperwork before storming out of the room. People in the audience were laughing so hard they could barely breathe. Ataru finally snapped. He jumped to his feet. And they never even gave me what they promised. Silence. A brief moment of perfect silence. Then the loudest laughter yet exploded throughout the studio. Several audience members were practically crying. Shinobu looked like she wanted the earth to swallow her whole. Ataru, she stood up slowly. I can explain. Really? Absolutely. Slap! The sound echoed across the entire studio. Shinobu turned and ran. Shinobu! Ataru immediately ran after her. The audience continued laughing. The cameramen abandoned the interview and chased after them with their cameras. Far above the city, inside a small yellow flying saucer hidden among the clouds, Lum rolled across the floor laughing uncontrollably. Tears streamed down her cheeks. She clutched her stomach. A small antenna connected to Earth's broadcasting systems continued feeding altered footage directly into the television station. That's what you get for humiliating me in front of the entire galaxy, Ataru. And while chaos continued below, the Oni princess admired her handiwork with immense satisfaction. Scene final. Several hours later, Ataru Moroboshi walked miserably through the streets of Tomobiki. Head lowered, shoulders slumped, kicking an empty can, clink, clink, clink. People stared at him as he passed. Look, it's the so-called hero. What an embarrassment. A mother grabbed her son's hand. Don't look. Why, Mom? Because that man is a pervert. Ataru felt a stab directly through his heart. Clink, clink, clink. Everything keeps going wrong. He sighed. First Shinobu, then television, then the harem. He paused, especially the harem. Suddenly someone blocked his path. Ataru looked up and found himself surrounded. Magain, Perm, Chibi, and the enormous gorilla. Alongside them stood the gigantic member of the torture club, still wearing his wrestling mask. All of them wore their navy blue school uniforms. None of them looked happy. Ataru, Magain stepped forward. We need to talk. If you're here to congratulate me, shut up. Ataru immediately shrank. What a hero you turned out to be. Humiliating, Lum. Our beautiful Lum. You should be ashamed. Yeah, I get it. But that's not why we're here. Megan extended a hand. We're here to collect. Collect what? The money you owe us. Ataru froze. To be continued. The money you owe us. Ataru froze. What money? The money we lent you for betting on the competition. Ataru immediately turned pale. Guys, we know the government paid you. Pay up. I don't have anything. Liar. Ataru sighed dramatically. Fine. Fine. What a pain. He slowly pulled out his wallet. The moment the money became visible, Magain snatched it from his hands. Hey! Magain began counting the bills. One for me, one for Perm, one for Chibi, one for Gorilla, and one for the torture club. When he finished, he handed the wallet back. Empty. Completely empty. It was a pleasure doing business with you. The group walked away happily. Ataru stared at the wallet, then at the group, then back at the wallet. That was all my money. The boys disappeared around a corner. Ataru slowly dropped to his knees. How can everything possibly go this wrong? High above him, hidden among the clouds, Lum watched from her saucer and laughed. Ha ha! That's what you get for defeating me. A little later, Ataru arrived at Shinobu's house. He rang the doorbell, once, twice, 3 times. The door opened. Shinobu's parents stood there. Both looked furious. What do you want? I need to see Shinobu. Shinobu doesn't want to talk to you. But we all saw the television interview. You're a pervert, a degenerate, a national embarrassment, the scum of humanity. Each insult struck Ataru like an arrow. Mr. Miyake, go away. At that moment, Shinobu appeared behind them. Ataru? Shinobu? What are you doing here? I need to explain. Explain what? The whole thing was a trap. Sure, it's true. Sure. I swear it. Shinobu crossed her arms. You've got a lot of nerve showing up here. Ataru looked moments away from tears. High above, inside the flying saucer, Lum watched everything unfold with a gigantic grin. Perfect. Perfect. Everything is going perfectly. And she laughed. And laughed. And laughed some more. So much, in fact, that she accidentally bumped a control lever with her elbow. Click. Lum blinked. Huh? Her smile vanished. What was that? Down below, something suddenly appeared above Shinobu's house. A gigantic yellow saucer with black tiger stripes, perfectly visible. Everyone looked up. Silence. Ataru was the first to react. You! He pointed at the sky. I knew it was you. Shinobu's eyes widened. Lum? She did all of this. What? The television. The footage. Everything. She's trying to break us apart. Shinobu stared at the saucer, then at Ataru, then back at the saucer. So you were telling the truth? Of course I was telling the truth. A wave of guilt washed over Shinobu. Ataru. Yeah? I'm sorry. And she hugged him. Ataru froze. Huh? I'm sorry. Shinobu. He immediately hugged her back. I knew you'd believe me. Far above them, Lum stared in horror. What? What? No. She rushed to the controls, frantically reactivated the cloaking system. The saucer vanished, but it was already too late. Damn it! Lum threw herself onto the tiger-striped carpet. Everything went wrong. She pounded the floor with her fists. Now they're back together. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! For several seconds, she lay there fuming. Then, a slow smile began to return. Well, I'll just have to try something different. Below, Ataru and Shinobu continued embracing. That was when a small voice spoke from behind them. Ha! The two turned around. Cherry stood there, leaning on his staff, grinning. Well, boy. Ataru swallowed nervously. Cherry chuckled. You have the luck of a fool. Freeze frame on Ataru's utterly confused face. End of episode.